Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Rural Voices. 15 authors challenge assumptions about small-town America. Edited by Nora Shalaway Carpenter. Narrated by Diana Blue and Emmanuel Chumaceiro. Publisher's note. This audiobook includes bonus material. Please visit Tantor.com and type Rural Voices into the search box. Follow the link to the book's page. Then, under the Supplemental Content section, please enter the access code RURAL, and then click the Unlock button to access the bonus material. The code should be entered in all lowercase letters. All graphic stories referenced in this audiobook can be found in the bonus material. Introduction. Dear reader, when I was growing up, my family traveled a lot, a perk of having a parent who took on freelance travel writing assignments. I was 7 years old when, on one such trip, an adult I'd just met cracked a joke about me. In response to learning I was from West Virginia, the person wondered how that could be, because I still had all my teeth. There was a pause, and young me realized I was supposed to laugh, to join the fun. I don't remember what the person looked like, or whether we were in an airport or a fast food restaurant, but the smallness that comment instilled in me, the idea that I should feel shame because of where I lived, that I remember to this day. Unfortunately, this was only the first of many ugly West Virginia stereotypes I'd encounter. I spent most of my childhood and young adulthood internalizing shame about where I was from and trying to reconcile my lived experiences with the almost universally negative and simplistic portrayal of rural people on TV and in other popular media. I grew accustomed to casual jabs about my background and learned not to mention it. On the occasional times I did challenge those jabs, when I managed to communicate some version of what you're saying doesn't match my reality, and it also insults many people I love. My experiences were seen as exceptions to the rule, not proof of its invalidity. This reaction depressed me, but it didn't surprise me. After all, for most of America's history, rural people and culture have been casually mocked, stereotyped, and, in general, deeply misunderstood. But then, 2016 happened. In the months following the presidential election, rural people became something of a media obsession. Derogatory remarks about rural Americans became increasingly prevalent and intense. Over and over again, people outside the rural experience tried to understand and explain the rural narrative. Over and over again, the story of a rural monolith, a uniform, like-minded population that shares the same beliefs, value system, identities, and political leanings, was told and accepted as truth. Because this is a foreword and not a political science or economics article, all I'll say here is that yes, I saw the electoral maps like everyone else, but those visuals don't tell anywhere close to the whole story. However, in the eyes of most Americans, it seemed there was only the monolith. I was done with the monolith. Rural voices emerged as a counterpoint to that harmful narrative and the hurtful idea that accompanies it, that rural equates with less than. Being rural is deeply embedded in many people's identities, but it is definitely not a punchline. As I began envisioning this anthology and the authors who might want to contribute, The slipperiness of the rural label became more and more apparent. Some townships and unincorporated areas are technically, according to the mailing address, classified as part of larger towns. But due to the reality of geography, the residents' lifestyles are vastly different from those of the people living in the town's centers. Some areas, while tiny in population, are nonetheless major tourist attractions and posh vacation hotspots. Does that somehow negate their rural status? The nature of this project did require some kind of rural definition, and so for the purposes of this collection, it is this. Rural refers to belonging to a community consisting of 10,000 people or fewer that is a significant driving distance from an urban area. Contributors either grew up in rural communities or lived in one long enough at some point to self-identify as rural American. The 15 authors whose work you're about to read are diverse in ethnic and cultural background, sexual orientation, rural geographic location, physical ability, and socioeconomic status. You'll find powerful new voices alongside award-winning established authors. Still, this collection portrays only a fraction of the innumerable experiences and voices that compose rural America. And that, indeed, is the point. There's not just one type of rural. These stories will transport you all over the United States and into the lives and hearts of the characters who inhabit them. In Virginia, you'll solve a mystery and right a wrong. You'll roam the Arctic tundra of Alaska and meet the ghosts of a mountain town in New Mexico. In New York, you'll discover a hollow's powerful dark secret, and you'll be invited to pull up a seat and learn of real-life experiences that bloomed into poetry. You'll navigate a private school in South Carolina and learn to speak your truth. You'll walk painfully down cracked Indiana sidewalks. In Georgia, you'll take a life-altering bus ride in one story. In another, you'll find a forest that makes you remember who you are. In Idaho, you'll discover the secret menu of a small restaurant and, later, how speaking up can shatter barriers. You'll find fear and freedom in East Texas and political and personal unrest in a Texas border town. You'll climb trees in West Virginia and visit a county fair in Michigan. In Utah, you'll experience a teen's struggle to bridge two very different parts of her identity. Every one of these places is rural, yet every one is its own unique universe. Just as there's no one uniform rural place, there's no one kind of rural teen either. The teenagers in these pieces range from amateur sleuths and academic scholarship winners to marching band members and rodeo queen hopefuls. They are pig farmers and writers, artists and restaurant servers. They navigate relationships, bigotry, and their own identities. Some are popular. Some are misfits. They love their hometowns and hate them, sometimes both at once. Rural Voices defies the idea of a rural monolith, over and over, with every story. It seeks to change the conversation, to offer new narratives and ways of viewing the incredible people who make up rural America, the people who are so often misunderstood, made fun of, and maligned, who are overlooked or even outright ignored. The short stories, poetry, graphic short stories, personal essay, and author anecdotes in these pages dive deep into the complexity and diversity of rural America and the people who call it home. Whether your own experience is rural or not, I hope you find something of yourself in these pages, and more than a few somethings that surprise you. Thank you for reading. Nora Shalaway Carpenter. The Unhealthy Breakfast Club. Monica Rowe. Interstate 95 slices our state north to south like a crooked scar. Far from cities and college towns and the sprawling beach houses of the coast, I-95 cuts through swampland and cotton country, peanut fields and poultry farms and whistle-stop railroad towns that were poor even before the textile mills all tucked tail and left. The rural counties clustered along I-95 are nicknamed the Corridor of Shame. I don't know who first called us that, but every few years, some politician visits to make a point about education failures and how our children deserve a better chance. They bring camera-toting reporters who click dozens of pictures of leaky roofs, busted floor tiles, 30-year-old textbooks, and desks shored up with a cinder block or two. And maybe a couple of our trophy cases, or the framed awards from kids who've placed in the statewide art competition. Once in a while, some college research team will come meet with teachers and principals for a couple days. Then a big article comes out, full of terms like pilot project, or structural inequality, or generational poverty. Then things stay pretty much the same until a few years later, when the whole thing starts all over again. The internet works best before 7 a.m., but you got to get online first to grab the best bandwidth. I have a video-based assignment due today, so I make Dad leave extra early. "You trying to kill an old codger, Gracie?" He jokes around a yawn, gulping his coffee as the golden arch, half has been burned out forever, appears through the 6:09 a.m. fog. He's just messing. We tried to stream my assignment last night using his phone, but gave up after getting kicked off exactly 13 times. Broadband, y'all. Some counties just don't know how good they got it. But the McDonald's at the crossroads of Route 64 and State Highway 125 has a decent signal, if you can get here super late or super early. This, plus its location, makes it the logical meetup for our morning carpool. I'll make it up to you, I promise, as I gather my stuff and climb out of the pickup. When I'm rich and famous, we'll get you into the nicest nursing home in the Carolinas. With a good bass pond, please, he calls out the window as he leaves. Inside, I say hi to the morning shift ladies and order hot cocoa. The only other customers are a pair of loggers too busy scarfing McMuffins to have their phones out. The Wi-Fi is mine. It was Ms. Dorothy who clued me in about the back corner booth sweet spot. "Router's in the office, sugar," she told me one morning, pointing with one hand and ringing up my order with the other. "Other side of the wall. Sit right there. It's Streaming City." Today she winks, sticks an apple pie and some hash browns into a bag, and gives it to me. Breakfast in hand, I claim the booth, slide over into the far corner, and get to work. Finals start in less than 2 weeks, and we've got tons to finish first, so it's not long before the others trickle in. I hear a quandre arrive without even looking. His old Rams needed a new exhaust, probably since it was his granddaddy's. Alternator too, I'd say. "Morning, G3, he says, and sits down across from me. "See you snagged the sweet spot. Well done." "Boots," I reply, shoving my books over to make room. "You're looking extra shiny today." I nod at his gold-stitched scarlet and cream boots. Should have brought my sunglasses. We're more of what you'd call friendly now than actual friends, but our first grade nicknames still fit. Since all three of my names, Grace, Glory, Geiger, still start with G, and he still loves fancy cowboy boots. Boys big stuff on the local junior rodeo circuit, if you like that sort of thing. Zeke's next, catching a ride in on his dad's logging truck, which is headed to the pulp mill with a full load. Aquandre goes over to hold the door, and I bite back a laugh as his fancy-booted feet have to dance a bit to avoid Zeke's fly-by wheels. "Well met, fellow sojourners," Zeke sings, like we're meeting at a plank table in some medieval tavern instead of a dingy plastic McDonald's booth. I grab my cocoa to keep it from spilling as he flies over and lets the table stop his wheelchair for him. But we're used to Zeke's speed factor by now, so I just say hi and keep working. Zeke pulls out one of his thick-as-a-doorstop fantasy novels. He probably finished all his internet assignments from now until finals during his one study hall. I bet Zeke could write a 10-page paper in his sleep and get an A+, which just isn't fair. One day we'll see him on the news for discovering a new planet. Or for pulling a midnight break-in at Disney World to try and set some magical creatures free. Either way, I've learned far more than I ever wanted about the mystical realms of wherever since we all started riding together. I half expect Zeke to come in some morning wearing a cloak and a sword. Florecita arrives last, which means she had to get her little brothers over to her abuela's first. She says hi to her aunt, who's manning the fryers, and Aunt Inez slips her a bulging bag and a huge coffee before ducking back to get orders up for a crowd of boot-stomping loggers. Flor comes over and thumps the bag onto our table. Brain fuel. She sits, pops in her earbuds, and fires up her old tablet. Flor doesn't mess around when it comes to schoolwork. "Lembas bread and butterbeer," Zeke crows. "All hail the unhealthy breakfast club." He upends the greasy bag with a flourish, sending paper-wrapped lumps skittering. "Dude," I sigh, as we all scuffle for the chicken biscuits. I don't think it's legal to have this much energy before 7 a.m. Zeke laughs and snags the last chicken biscuit. "Here," he says, handing it to me. "You clearly need this more than me." Boy has a point. Aquandre devours half a breakfast burrito and scoops up a hash brown. I haven't eaten this bad since, like, ever. "No offense, Flor," he adds, loudly so she can hear him. "It sure fills up a hollow." We all know what he means. The bags of free food from Flor's aunt have been great for keeping us fueled as we head toward finals. Less great on our stomachs. But food is food, so we all keep munching and get back to work. "Eat hearty, adventurers," Zeke grins around a bite of biscuit. "For the capital awaits." Our 0-Dark-30 study group didn't happen by choice. We've known each other forever. Hard not to, in a county like Barndale. And Flor and I both live in the Cypress Grove Mobile Home Park on the back loop of Daisy Flinch Road. But we're all about as different as you can get. Other than being short on internet and long on worries about all those random little expenses our Hammerlin scholarships don't quite hit. Hammerlin's a private school in the big town 2 counties west. Mostly for rich kids, but they give a few scholarships to kids in our county through some rural outreach. It's a great opportunity, but over an hour each way, and the school doesn't provide a ride. Instead, it put the Barndale kids' parents into contact to leverage and collectivize your transportation resources. When Aquandre turned 17 last October, Our parents decided we should all just carpool with him every day. He's the only one old enough to legally drive a truck full of minors, so we all pay him gas and wear and tear money. It's easier on our parents, for sure. For us, it's been sort of like opening 4 random pens at the zoo and shooing a bear, an otter, a coyote, and an elephant all into one fake habitat. Then, expecting them to be instant best friends. The internet gets good at mile marker 32. 2 hours later, we get to school, where the parking lot always makes it impossible to forget how much separates us from most other Hammerlin kids. The drop-off line is jam-full with Audis, BMWs, Infinities, more V8s and leather seats and understated chrome than I've ever seen outside a dealership. The few pickups, huge and new, have clearly never hauled hay. The student lot's no different. I know it's wrong, but I catch myself judging kids when they casually climb out of cars that cost more than my home. They wear them so easy, like the perfect clothes, and the trips they talk about, like it's no big thing. Machu Picchu, Vail, Lisbon was okay. I've never even been to Dollywood. Like usual, Aquandre parks in the farthest corner of the lot that's partly shaded by tall hedges. He'd drop Zeke off closer, but Zeke always says no. Honestly, we all prefer it this way. We know how Aquandre's truck sticks out. Also, the long trek over to the school's front entrance gives us time to spread out. The rest of us shuffle bags and gather cups, while Aquandre lifts Zeke's wheels from the flatbed. I hand Zeke his backpack once he's swung down from the truck. He slings it over his chair's hand grips, then shades his eyes and gazes at the shiny cars inching past the entrance. "Another day," he says. "Fare thee well, District 12s." Zeke's jokes about Hammerlin being the capital made more sense after he convinced me to watch the Hunger Games one afternoon while we waited for Floor's play practice to get out. It was pretty good, but I'll still take Nat Geo or a Popular Mechanics podcast, stuff that's real, any day. As we cross the lot, Floor slips away, earbuds still in, to join a few theater kids. Aquandre lengthens his stride and heads over to some student government buddies. Zeke and me go a few more yards together until he starts eyeing the smooth, perfect sidewalk that runs beside the school. He's obviously itching to play a little before the bell. Pop curbs. Practice that moving wheelie he's been perfecting. Accessible architecture isn't exactly the norm out where we live, and Zeke loves cutting loose when he can. "Catch you later," I tell him, and he hurtles off with a quick backward wave. Just like that, it's almost like we didn't arrive together at all. "Gracie," someone calls. "You dropped these." I turn and see John Conover IV holding 2 purple leather juggling balls that must have fallen out of my backpack. I really need to fix that rip. I stuff the balls back into a different pocket of my bag. "Thanks." John paces me as I beeline for the doors. "How many you up to these days?" he asks. 4, maybe. Lie. I can do 5 with my eyes closed, 6 on a great day, but I'm not giving him any reason to ask me to show him a new trick. "Nice. I just nailed 4 too," he says, though I didn't ask. "We still need to try duo sometime, yeah?" Then the bell rings. Thank God. "Maybe," I say. "Sometime." "How about never?" I think. I stride ahead of him and escape into the crowd and through the doors. Once I'm inside, though, That familiar imposter feeling settles over me like spiderwebs, invisible, sticky, impossible to wipe off. Yeah, we got the test scores to earn these scholarships, but that sure doesn't mean we belong. I never much thought about it before I came to Hammerlin, but maybe Corridor of Shame isn't so wrong. Only, I didn't know I was supposed to feel ashamed of where I come from until I landed in a school 2 counties over that might as well be another planet. And it's great, I guess, that someone pays for a few of us corridor kids to come to a school this good. But what about everyone else at my old school? My old friends. We 4 know we're insanely lucky to be here. So mostly, we keep our mouths shut and work our tails off. And if we sometimes feel poor or dumb or like we've tumbled onto a planet where we're the alien species, I guess that's just the price of things. Other than everything being decorated for Cinco de Mayo, school's nothing special today. Class all morning, homework in study hall. I eat lunch with Riley and Michaela, my friends from Robotics Club. They're excited about their summer plans. Riley's going to summer robotics camp at Duke. Michaela's going to Vanuatu while her mom does some kind of research. Note to self, look up where Vanuatu is. What about you, Gracie? Riley asks. Anything fun? I shrug. Probably do some work for my dad. I don't add that the work will be repairing cars. My friends know I'll probably study engineering, but I'm not sure they'd understand how much I still love getting under a hood. Maybe hit the beach. Cool. Michaela opens a pack of gum, and her new Sweet 16 gift, a tiny diamond-encrusted flip-flop, glitters off her charm bracelet as she passes us each a piece. Nothing beats the beach, right? Flora's got drama club after school, and Aquandre has student government, so I head to the library, where the internet's so jam up fast it never bogs down no matter how many people are online, to battle my government paper. The library's empty, which is great because writing's not my favorite, and the assignment, a big chunk of our grade, is due in 3 days. But just as I'm finally getting into the zone, John Conover IV sits down across from me and says something I can't hear through my earbuds. I bite back a sigh and pull one out. What? I said, you never stop practicing, do you? He points to the pen I'm flipping over and around and through my fingers. I always do this when I'm nervous or bored, or trying to concentrate on something tough. It's such a habit, I barely notice when I'm doing it. I clench the pen in my fist to keep it still. Just trying to finish up some work, I tell him, hoping he'll get the hint. Instead, he pulls out his phone and shows me a juggling video. Check it out, he says as 2 jugglers work 3, 4, 6, and even 8 clubs between them. I'm thinking winter showcase next year. We could totally nail this. Then Zeke rolls in. Gracie, he calls. Almost time. Oh, hey, John. 5 minutes, I tell him, just wrapping up. Zeke pulls up, and he and John start talking about some role-playing game they're both into while I pop my earbud back in and write a couple more paragraphs, resisting the urge to stop typing and flip my pen every 30 seconds. When I get to a stopping place and close the computer, John tries to get me into the conversation, but I give him one-word answers until he finally gets up and tells us bye. Think about it, Gracie, he says on his way out. Winter showcase, duo act, epic. Not likely, I mutter under my breath. Zeke gives me a funny look. Time to go, I say. Right? I gather my stuff, and we head out. I know Zeke's wondering why I...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?